Hello everyone, so today we're looking at the Boltric system. This is a system that over here at Archer Point, we have a team which is specialized on 3PL dynamics. So in this first video, we'll be looking at master data around 3PL industry and how this is specific to Business Central. So first of all, if you look at master data, right, obviously we've got, the customers, right, for the same customers as Business Central. So this is actually the same table. Let the system just warm up a bit. One of the things that we have differently, right, and that we've added is the capacity to determine the invoicing period for each customer. And what we have here essentially is that, well, obviously all the different customer information, the address, and over here if we go in warehousing, we also have the invoice period code, right? So this customer is going to be invoiced weekly for their storage and handling charges. And that's pretty much how they'll be invoiced. You'll also notice throughout the whole system that we have some additional fields over here for statuses. So this is extremely useful because what this allows us to do is to say that we are either in the status new or that this customer is active and can be, and for which we can have some goods received or shipped. If I look over here on the right, we have, in the fact boxes, essentially, I can see that I've got some receipts and some shipments and some transfers over here, which are currently open for this customer. So let me just go back. Same thing with master data over here, vendors. Now be very careful, right? Differently than in Business Central. Vendors are not necessarily vendors that send you goods, right? These are vendors that to which you will have to pay some services. So for some warehouses, if you take care of the transportation, for example, these will be your transportation carriers and the vendors. And then we also have what we call over here customer items. Customer items are essentially items, right? So talking in 3PL industry, different from Business Central, all the inventory is segmented or segregated by customer. So if I open an item over here, let's say 01, these are called perfect French fries. And what I can see is that these are associated with customer number 1000, who is a food producer. So these are the items that I will be receiving, storing, and shipping for that specific customer. These items, what I can see, right, is that I will be receiving in cartons, and if I go in processing over here, I will be handling pallets over here in Euro pallets, or we could also have just standard pallets with PAL. So if I look over here, right on the right, I can see that I've got 1290 in stock, which is available for shipment. I've got 1650 in stock. What this means is that the reason why I've got a difference between both is that I can have some goods in stock, but maybe I've got some warehouse activities associated with them, right? So they may be in the put away process currently, or they may be on hold because of a specific process in my business. So maybe they're in the blast freezer if we have some blast freezers. When I look at over here, number of handling units, over here I click on 32. What I'm seeing here essentially is all of the different handling units on which I've got essentially this item associated with it, right? So on this handling unit, I've got 80 cartons on the handling unit. And as you can see over here, for example, on this one, which I've got 80 cartons on the handling unit 2505, I've also got 80 cartons in a warehouse activity, so either put away or pick. And so they are assigned over here. If I click here, obviously I'll be able to see that they're in the put away process. So they're not available for shipping until they're in the storage, right? So these are essentially the handling units. This is interesting because we're not only managing the level of inventory, but we're also managing the specific pallets. Now, if I look over here, right, we also have addresses. Addresses are essentially the point-to-point addresses. So these will be your consignees, your ship to addresses, or your shipper addresses, your sender addresses, your ship from essentially that you will have over here, right? So in the context of a warehouse, when you're doing shipments, you'll be assigning the ship to. In the context of, and if you're going to be receiving goods, you're going to be assigning a ship from or a sender. In the context of forwarders, right? These become really important because it's you can assign all the consignees, shippers. You can also assign some notify parties, right? And all that over here in the addresses. Now let's look at the master data over here. Services. Services are all the different services that I'll be charging to my customer. So either handling services, wrapping, for example, case picking, a receipt fee, for example. I've got some storage charges over here that I can either, there are many ways of calculating storage. I can calculate storage on a monthly basis with the average amount of pallets, or by weight, or by anniversary date. So there are various ways of calculating storage. Obviously, locations over here are a bit different than in Microsoft Business Central. If you guys know about Microsoft Business Central, the locations are equivalent to the bins, right? So these are warehouse locations. Over here, we've got also a hierarchy, which is interesting, right? Because I can see that the 1311A1, for example, if I click on this one, well, I can see that, well, I have a parent location. So the A1 is related to the parent location's 1311A, right? So this means I can put a hierarchy with the amount of aisles, right? And all the different locations in those aisles. Let's just top it off over here. Shipping agents. Well, these are all of your different carriers. So DHL, DPD, Pickup, or UPS. And then, well, we also have buildings. Buildings are your warehouses. So over here, we just have one default building, and WMS contracts. WMS contracts are actually really important. I'm going to do a video specifically for WMS contracts, but this is what determines all of your storage charge, how you're calculating the storage of pallets, for example, but also all of your handling fees, right? And so you can assign some different, calculation methods for handling fees. So is it per pallet, for example, or are you charging per case, or are you just charging a flat fee for the receipt? Okay, I'll set up a whole video on that. And so yeah, so that's pretty much it for master data. Next video will be a standard receipt, shipments, and the execution of the goods.